This podcast contains gambling references. You know the score. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858 or your local state gambling helpline.
9 podcasts.
This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
Hi, welcome to Six Tackles with Gus for week 2 of the finals. Gee, the opening week didn't disappoint, did it? Some unbelievable rugby league and a whole lot of drama coming out of the weekend. On the show today, living on the edge. Punishments are making the role of the rugby league enforcer untenable. I'll put that hypothesis to Gus. The Raiders head to Combank. The winner heads to Townsville. What a great clash that one is. They've got a head of steam, Canberra. And where does James Tedesco sit among Gus's great players? The New South Wales skipper won his 3rd Brad Fittler medal this week. Enough drama out of the weekend for you?
Plenty. Finals time. The cream rises to the top.
Yeah. A few quick ones. What did you think of Allianz Stadium?
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. I got a chance to go there on Wednesday or Thursday just for a brief look when we pre-recorded the opening to the Sunday game, and I had a good look around there, and it's a vast improvement on the old Allianz Stadium, on the Sydney Football Stadium, which was home ground for teams that I coached for a long time there when I was at the Roosters, and it was the big ground to go to. I actually coached the first premiership winner there in 1988 with the Bulldogs. I
love the old SFS. Like, I know that the facilities now.
Yeah, we loved it, and that's why I'm not into home and away semi-finals. I think the finals should be played on your biggest grounds, and that was the thrill of semi-finals back in the day. I spoke about this last week. The thrill of finals time was to go to the cricket ground and play at the cricket ground on a neutral ground. You know, neutral grounds are a thing of the past. I don't think it matters that the big stadiums might be home ground to certain teams. In fact, the big grounds where we played the home games on the weekend all were beaten. Yeah, Melbourne were beaten in Melbourne, you know. It doesn't make the Roosters were beaten at Allianz. The stadiums didn't mean anything to them. Sharks were beaten at Shark Park in front of a meagre crowd for a semi-final. So this home ground semi-final thing is lost on me. For me, it's the thrill of a big crowd in a big stadium playing on a neutral ground. And if it happens to be their home ground, who cares? There's no home ground advantage there. Did you see any home ground advantage for the Roosters on the weekend? None. Zero. Zilch. Zip. None.
Well, I did for Penrith.
Eh?
I did for the Panthers.
Panthers would have beaten them, you know, on Jamison Road using a brick for a football. They were just too good from wherever they played. Didn't matter. But it was nice for the people of Penrith to get a home ground semi-final eventually, after years of being denied one. And the fact that they won the comp, you know, in Queensland last year and their fans couldn't get out to watch them play. So it was nice to have that home ground. But that's not where the finals should be played, home grounds. No.
Okay.
Nor do I think it's a disadvantage to play in a big stadium, even though it might be their home ground. It's the big stadium. And Allianz is going to be somewhere where everyone wants to play. It's got a Bank West feel about it, but just something better.
On a grander scale. That meant that there's only the 2 games we've had there have been Roosters Souths, and they're great events anywhere. But it felt like a grand final on Sunday.
It was brilliant. I sat very close to the crowd, you know, just in that northwestern corner where we had the panel there pre-game, and I was pretty close to the action and pretty close to the crowd, and they were right into it. They were also disappointed too with some of the events of the day, and particularly the first sin bin. When Victor Radley was sent off for that first sin bin, and the fans that were around all looked at me with their arms out in exasperation, both sides, South and Roosters, and said, "What the hell's that?
Yeah.
Is that where this game is going to go?" And then it just went on for the rest of the afternoon. Anyway, more about that later, I assume.
Well, yeah. I mean, You've obviously had a lot to say about it, particularly on 100% footy, and I think a lot of people, the response that I've seen, many people are in agreement with you. I'm wondering if Victor Radley and Ruia Hargreaves let the Roosters down. Think whatever you want about the way the rules are applied and the intervention of the bunker, etc. It is what it is. They smelt blood, and they couldn't calm themselves down, could they? Like, even to the point where Trent Robertson took Radley off the field used an interchange to take him off to cool him down. Like, if you're coaching in that situation, you've got 2 firebrands like that, you've got to calming them down. Like, what are you doing? Have they let their team down with their conduct?
He had 2 sin bins to calm down. He
That didn't work.
He didn't need any more interchange, and I don't think either was a sin bin offence, nor has he been charged.
The first one, there's no way the first one was a sin bin.
Or, it's ridiculous.
There's no evidence he even punched the bloke.
None whatsoever. That is looking for trouble. That is a bunker official looking for something to get himself into the game. But once that standard was set, everything that happened after that, of which many of those were not sin bin offences in my eyes. They were not sin bin offences. Not enough to send a player from the field.
But to my question, I mean, and you've had a lot to say about it, and I think, I think a lot of what you say is what the fans agree with. But did they, in the context of the way the rules are being interpreted now, did those two let the Roosters down?
Well, I kind of predicted, the last couple of weeks that the physicality of the Roosters would earn the ire of the referees, and it would cause them wear and tear, and it would also cause them injury. And that's why I didn't think they would get through to grand final day.
Funny you should say that.
I've said this of the Roosters. They've made a terrific run to get through to where they are. And their football at their best at full strength is capable of winning a premiership. It's capable of matching it with a Panther on the big day. But I've said they're not going to get there. They can't keep playing this physical. Either the injury's going to get them, wear and tear's going to get them, or the judiciary's going to get them. Well, there you go. I didn't know you were going to play that.
Yeah,
but it's right. It's right. And what disappointed me, and I think should disappoint the Roosters, was their approach to that game. And I'll go back to the previous week where they had a chance to rest players.
Mm-hmm.
The whole emotion of the returning to Allianz in their first home game and wanting to win that, and the fact that it was a local rivalry against South. If you couldn't see past all that and see a bigger picture with a chance of winning a premiership and how do I manage my team right through the final series, they should have rested players the previous week. Maybe Joey Manu plays on the weekend. Right? Other players aren't as hyped up as they are. It's just not.
It's Trent Robinson.
It's just not. I just didn't think that was smart enough, nor did they play smart enough on the day. Big Origin games and big finals and grand finals, they're pretty much a physical confrontation. They're a war where every now and then a game of football breaks out. We saw that with Origin 3 this year. Every now and then the game, and who's on top in the war usually commands the football at that time when the football breaks out. You've got to keep your head about you while those about you are losing theirs, right? It's and that's what Latrell Mitchell did. He concentrated on the football, and he was the difference between the two sides. There was no one on the Roosters concentrating on football, and they didn't need to do what they did physically in that game to beat South Sydney. They had the football smarts to beat them, right? The Rabbitohs had a number of sin bins themselves. I mean, they were both sides were retaliating first. They weren't waiting for a chance. They were sort of into the physical battle.
So it was down to 11 twice.
Yeah, but when it got and scored a try,
scored a try.
Now, I was right in that northwestern corner. That's where we had the pre-match panel, and I was sitting in that corridor there. And I had South fans to my left and Roosters fans to my right, and I played with both clubs, and they're all into me, and they're all into the referee, and they're all into.
And you're into the ref. Were you yelling at the ref?
No, I sat very quietly and watched. It, and they're exasperated. They're exasperated about the sin bins, and they're exasperated about the decisions, and and they're looking to me as though I'm going to solve it. I can't solve it for you, darling. There's nothing I can do for you. But I was pretty close to the action, and there was a really big moment when Souths were down to 11 men and they scored that try and Latrell Mitchell went into that in goal, right? And that northern end was full of South Sydney supporters.
Yeah.
And it was like a bomb had gone off. They just rose and they gave it to them. And I was 10 feet away from the Roosters as they formed a huddle in that corner to discuss what had happened with the try. And when I looked at them, heads were down. They were being berated by the South Sydney fans. Latrell had just stuck it up them. And they'd been scored against by 11 men, and then there was very little talk, there was very little animation, and then they stood and watched Latrell kick the goal from the sideline, and he picked up the tee and threw it at him and just went. I said, they're gone, and that's what happened for the next 40 minutes. South Sydney just ran roughshod over them, and it looked like being a big score until Roosters rallied a little bit later in the game, but it ended up being a big win.
How does 11 score against 13?
Latrell Mitchell, not respecting your opposition, not concentrating, probably disappointed that the other end of the field and they hadn't scored against 11 men. Then all of a sudden, penalty, they come down this end of the field, 6 again, 5th tackle, anticipating to get the ball back. Let's give me the ball back. You've got 11 men. Give me the ball back. Not concentrating on your defence. Latrell says, no kick, give it to me, bang, straight through, scores the try, kicks the goal, goes to the front 12-8.
Yep.
And you could see the energy suck out of the Roosters. They went into the game with the completely wrong mentality. They had to go out and out-football South Sydney on that day. I reckon they made a big mistake the week before playing the way they did, and then tried to replicate that in the first 20 minutes this week. South Sydney were ready for it. But there was no football common sense to what they were doing. And they've admitted it after the game. They said, we didn't handle, they had South down to 11 men twice.
Yeah.
You know, they just didn't handle the football aspect of the game, and it's the football in the end of the day that's going to win it. You know, if you think you've got to intimidate teams out of finals and origins, it's not going to happen. You don't physically intimidate people out of those types of games because everyone's motivated and up for it. You've got to out-football them. You've got to out-strategize them.
So I'll take it from your answer that, yes, JWH and Radley did kind of...
No, I'm not saying that.
But they all did. They all fell into the trap.
They all fell into the trap. They all fell into the trap. You know, they just played the way they play, and I think they were hard done by on a couple of occasions. But the way the game, the frustration of the game and the sin bins and the way it just kept, you know, going from one moment to another, and the way the crowd was, and, you know, it's like a Colosseum-type atmosphere, and the way South Sydney handled it so much better than the Roosters did, I think would be a disappointment to the Roosters. And it's a feather in the cap of South Sydney, who turned around the result from the previous week. They obviously made this week their priority, and they had the football smarts to out-strategise the Roosters, and that's where they got it. Now, you know, you're going to ask me in questions, you know, are enforcers dead, or can they play that way? I've been saying it for ages. Doctors, lawyers, referees, our administration of the game, everyone is petrified of injury. Everyone is petrified of concussion. They fear it greatly. And it's affected the whole way that we officiate, the whole way that we manage the game. It's affected players and players' mentality. I haven't got an answer to that, other than I wish we go back in time and not do it, because we warned them about it at the time and they didn't listen. We warned them about the bunker at the time. They didn't listen. They know better. Anyway, it's where it is, and I don't know how they're going to unravel this. I really don't. I don't know what they want the game to look like. We had Andrew Abdo. I've said to Peter V'landys myself personally, I said, what do you want it to look like? What are you trying, you know, what is it you want our game to look like? And what do you think our fans expect of our game? Not the people that don't support our game, the people that love our game. What sort of game do they want? What do the footballers want? Because you're making it way too hard for everyone. You're making it hard to watch, you're making it hard for the fans, and you're making it hard to play. You're making it hard to coach. Someone's got to get them all together in one room and work out what this game is going to look like. Because if it looks, you know, if we keep officiating it the way we're doing it, and we keep, and doctors and lawyers keep having the effect that they're having, I don't know that the game is going to be attractive enough down the track. That's my fear. But, you know, I'll be dead and gone by then.
Well, there are a few of those tackles, and look, let's move on from this, but there were a few of those tackles that should have incurred sin bins at the weekend, and certainly the head slam was a sin bin. The one that Burgess put on Tedesco should have been a sin bin, and he stayed on the field. But if you don't sin bin Radley for that first one, you allow, you know, and no, you allow yourself a bit more leniency, and a bit more common sense to be applied to the game.
Exactly, it was taken out of the referee's hands. The first sin bin from the bunker, the match was then taken out of the referee's hands, because once that was the standard for the day, those two teams. That's right. You know,
you see what was going to happen. Yeah, it was going to keep going.
What was going to happen? So, you know, anyway.
Look, it's an elimination final between it's the greatest rivalry in the game. Don't the officials have some kind of sense about what might happen on the ground? Like they've got to clue themselves up, haven't they?
No, because as soon as matters go to the bunker, it's a whole different world. That's a whole different interpretation. There is a group of referees that are filthy on the way that the game is officiated and the way they're told to referee. Right? But I'm not going to keep going into that because you know, I don't want to give people up. But, you know, the league has got a real issue on its hands here. And we had Andrew Abdo, and I love Andrew, good bloke, great for the game. He's a really good bloke. But we sat on the 100% footy panel. I said, if that's a send-off and that's a send, what do you want the game to look like? How do you think this game's going to be played if you are so sensitive to head knocks and you are so sensitive to issues like this, and you're going to start suspending people for head clashes and all that? What do you want the game to look like? What do you think it looks like when it's perfect? And he couldn't answer the question.
Yeah. All right.
And I don't think anyone can. All the people that are going down this path and petrified of of ramifications of head knocks and all that sort of. All the people that are going down this path have no idea what it looks like in a perfect world, and they think that simply tackling lower and tackling softer is going to don't run so hard, don't tackle so hard, don't attack the ball carrier, tackle lower. They think that's going to solve the issue for them. Rubbish. It's caused more head knocks than it's saved.
Why don't we just be a bit more judicious with the sin bin?
Well, that would be common.
Just raise the bar a bit. But that solves the problem.
Don't bring logic in it. But it goes to the match review committee. It goes to the judiciary. It goes to everything. All the stakes have gone up, and they're under instruction. You know, I don't know what it is they're trying to eradicate. I don't know what it is they fear. They won't admit to that. They're just saying, no, these are now the new rules. But
right now, Gus was on fire with his tips last week. You've been tipping up a storm, my friend.
Look, there'll be no fear from Parramatta, and you know their football, when it's good, is really good. But I just think the Panthers are the better side, and they will prevail. I think Raiders are a great chance.
Ooh, little upset there from Gus.
I like the Cowboys.
Two outsiders for the Gus Meister.
Yeah, I do know who I'm going to tip. I think Rooster are the better team.
Right.
And I think Rooster can still win despite the fact Joey Manu's not playing.
You tip Souths.
Sorry?
You tip South, not the Roosters.
No, I only tip Roosters out of loyalty, a little bit of compassion. But, you know, I'd sort of said there that Roosters can't keep going the way they're going. I thought they might have had one more big one in them.
I thought you tipped Souths.
Yeah, no.
Said 4 from 4 here. 3 from 4.
Yeah, 3 from 4.
I'll tell you what else I said last week. That they'll knock each other out of the finals.
Yeah, well,
what do you think?
Could have been the type of game that did it.
Are you going to stick to that?
No, I think they'll beat Sharks. The Sharks-Cowboys game was the one game on the weekend for mine that didn't come up to semi-final standard.
Wasn't much defence there, was it?
Both sides conceded 30 points.
Yeah.
You know, that's ridiculous. If you look at the results from the weekend, if my memory serves me correctly, Panthers conceded 8 to Parramatta, and Rabbitohs conceded 14 to Roosters, even though they were down to 12 and 11 men regularly during the game. So the two teams that actually applied themselves defensively to the contest, everyone else conceded, 30-odd points, 28, 30, 27 points. Rabbitohs and Panthers were the only ones that had a commitment to defence. Coincidentally, they were the two grand final teams from last year. South's a different looking team, and Panthers just way out in front of the field. So
what'd you make of that Sharks-Cowboys game? Because some great attack, but
yeah.
there were some
soft
tries.
I think had Sharks and Cowboys played any of the other opposition, they'd have lost. I think they both would have lost.
Right.
I don't think that game rose to semi-final intensity for me, and certainly didn't have semi-final defence. I think had Sharks played anyone but Cowboys, had Cowboys played anyone but Sharks, they would have lost with the defensive attitude that they had on the night. And they've both got to fix that. The Cowboys now get the advantage of going home to Townsville for a preliminary final and a fortnight to get that right, and they're waiting on their opposition to come through there. But it was the lesser of the 4 games I saw on the weekend, which, now that there is a suspension to Tom Burgess, that's going to haunt South a little bit. But I just think they've got the more constructive attacking game. I think Latrell Mitchell. Got to remember, South went to a preliminary final 2 years ago and got beat by 4 points, and then they went to the grand final last year and they beaten by 2 points with no Latrell.
Yeah.
They did have Wayne Bennett as coach, but they had no Latrell. Now Latrell's fit and hungry, and he commanded that game the other day. He really did. He toyed with everyone. He toyed with the crowd. He toyed with the referee. He toyed with the opposition. He just ran his own race the whole day, and absolutely was the difference between the two sides. And he might do that again. He might have another level to go to yet.
Oh, I reckon he does.
I just fitting well at this time of year. He's the triple X factor, I can tell you.
Yeah. So let's go back to Friday. I think during the call I said Nathan is putting on a masterclass here. It was one of his great performances. It was one of the great finals performances, particularly first up after 6 weeks. Now, please don't misquote me here, but the way he kicks and the way he runs and the way he controls the game, and particularly the way he defends, he's in the same mould as Andrew Johns, as a player.
Yep.
Was that a fair comparison?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not comparing their stat at what they've done in the game, but
No.
the style of halfback.
yeah. Andrew Johns was an extraordinary talent that went way beyond his coaching.
Yeah.
And the way beyond his development. He was just a unique individual that transformed and has made it so much harder for halfbacks that have followed him. Every other club was looking for an Andrew Johns. They come along once in a lifetime of players like that. Parramatta have been looking for a Peter Sterling for 37 years and haven't found one. It's just, they're just very unique players. And to compare people to Andrew Johns is very unfair. However, this is a kid, and I've said this on a number of occasions. Nathan Cleary deserves everything he's ever got out of football. Now, to his advantage, he's been in professional football since he was 3 years of age. I can remember him coming to training with Ivan. It's like having your father as a professional golfer. There's probably only one career path for you. His father was a professional footballer and a professional coach. Nathan has been around professional football and a professional footballers all his life, so he was very comfortable in the environment. But the extras that he did, the dedication to his craft, the dedication to improvement. And I can remember him at 18 years of age, long after the other players had gone, sitting in the video room, and he'd be sitting in there on his own, and I'd go in and sit down and say, "What are you looking at?" And he'd be watching Cooper Cronk, he'd be watching Jonathan Thurston, he'd be watching these great playmakers. And I'd say to him, mate, they weren't doing this at your age. Understand where you are, all right? And understand they weren't doing this until their late 20s, all right, where they'd really perfected their craft and they were commanding games and running things like they were. It's all right to have that aspirational, but these are the stages you're going to need to go through. And his development has been very meticulous right through the program. He got to first grade at 18 years of age, but with no demands on him to be running the team and running it like Andrew Johns. He had to be what Nathan Cleary was capable of that time. And he's just grown in confidence over that period of time. He's now played all these games. He's played Origins. He's played Grand Finals. He's won premierships. And he still hasn't hit his sweet spot yet. He's still nowhere near as good as he's going to be. But what that does is bring to life everyone else in the team and the club even, with the way he acts, and his culture and his professionalism is rubbed off on everybody. And it came from one so young. So he deserves everything he ever got. And when people were saying he'd be rusty going into that game, I just laughed because I just knew what he would have put himself through. And the Panthers had the minor premiership wrapped up a month before the end of the season. So they've virtually been training for that one semi-final game for a month.
Yeah.
And I said, no, he'll be too. And he was. It was chalk and cheese. I mean, it was a brilliant individual performance, but born out of the confidence of a group of players that have been playing together for so long. Time spent playing together is really important. They've got their game down pat, and I just don't see anyone matching it with them at the moment. And on top of that is the brilliant defensive system, which is just it's not the highlighted feature of their football, but it's a major They kept all those Parramatta players less than 100 metres each in individual yardage. Running the ball. They attack with their defence, and then they attack with their attack, and they're tireless. They have abundant energy. I've never seen a team that's going so fast in the 79th minute as what the Panthers are at the moment. So
his performance was that good, and I brought that up because calling that game, you could almost, for the first time ever, I thought you could almost cut and paste Johns with Cleary here, and it wouldn't look out of place.
It's funny because everyone back in the day wanted an Andrew Johns. Everyone, it was a load to bear for a lot of young halfbacks.
Yeah.
Because everyone wanted them doing it by 18 and 19.
He's blokes that play for New South Wales.
Yeah, everyone was looking for the new Andrew Johns. There was no new Andrew Johns. There's never going to be another Andrew Johns. All right, but it made it hard for halfbacks to follow him. It's the same with every halfback that's ever played for Parramatta since Sterling. What they're being compared to, what they expect. The expectations are too great. The expectations creates too much pressure, and it put pressure on halfbacks everywhere in the competition. They got the age of 18 and 19. If they weren't doing what Andrew Johns did, what do? They moved him to hooker.
That's right.
So Joey
played hooker too.
All our hookers got better, but we weren't
right.
producing any halfbacks. But what I'm noticing now is that when you talk to, when I interview young halfbacks or even senior halfbacks or fellas that are emerging halfbacks in the NRL, and you're talking to them about a career in the game, I say to you, well, you tell me who do you see as the best halfback in the game, or who do you see someone you'd like to model your game on? They don't say Andrew Johns anymore.
Yeah.
They all say Nathan Cleary. So, and players today never saw Andrew play at his best, but he's now the benchmark. We're going to be talking 20 years' time, people are going to be comparing people to Nathan Cleary. And that's the stature he now has in the game. And he's still nowhere near where he's going to be. Trust me, his development is still nowhere near complete. He's going to keep getting better.
probably make his test debut too, we'd hope, in the World Cup. I'll indulge myself. I adore Greg Alexander as a bloke that grew up in the western suburbs, but is Nathan Cleary Penrith's best ever halfback now?
He's very different to Greg Alexander. Yeah. Very different era, very different type of football, very different personalities. Greg was one of the most elite talents that I ever coached. Phenomenal talent. And, you know, he obviously tragedy halfway through his career when he was just approaching the peak, you know, had a major effect on him. And I still think, you know, we didn't see the best of Greg. I can remember when we won the 91 grand final the following year. We went up and we played the Broncos at Lang Park and we beat them 32-8. And Greg Alexander just totally tore them to shreds. And I took that tape down to Don Ferner, who was the Origin halfback. I said, he's our New South Wales halfback. I said, Alan Langer's team will never beat Greg Alexander's team. And Wayne Bennett had admitted at the time, he said, we can't win the comp while they're in it. And then, of course, we had the tragedy with Ben, and our club sort of fell apart, and Broncos won the next two premierships. You know, I think Greg Alexander would have been a multiple premiership winner at Panthers in that era. And, you know, it's very sad. But Greg's, you know, a strong human being, and he's been involved with the club now, and he's you know, he's a great supporter. And he's also helped Nathan Cleary a lot, because I used to get Greg in to come and help Nathan with his short kicking game and other things around the game. And he's been a great mentor to Nathan as well. But he's
so they're both up there.
I think
it
would be unfair.
Yeah.
It would be unfair.
It was an unfair question.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah. But, you know, for me, not the world didn't see the best of Greg Alexander. We got a taste of what it was going to be, but unfortunately, it just, you know, circumstances took that away. But Greg was a phenomenal footballer, absolutely phenomenal footballer.
He's a freak. Love you, Brandy. Speaking of compared with the great players, James Tedesco won his third Brad Fittler medal on Monday night. And again, no, it's a difficult question, but like, where's he situated now amongst the great players ever? I mean, he's won multiple premierships. He's captained New South Wales to an Origin series. He's won 3 Man of the Match awards. He's won 3 Brad Fittler medals. He may well, and probably in all likelihood will be the Australian captain in the World Cup. I mean, we're talking here about one of the game's greats now, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. And he consistently, I spoke about our player rating systems and contributions to the game.
So when I say one of the game's greats, I'm talking about, you know, greats ever.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. I know what you're saying, yeah. He's consistently be high performances. The consistency of his high performance is phenomenal over a number of years, his contribution, which comes in all different ways. Like it's just his energy and his participation and his toughness and what he provides for the team. And I wouldn't say that he's a brilliant playmaker at all, but he does it on effort and he does it on sheer will. He's not as silky as a Billy Slater. He's not like a Tom Trbojevic. He's very unique, James Tedesco. Earlier in his career, he was very fast, but he had a very extravagant running style, particularly the way he changed direction. I think he got injured a couple of times. He did an ACL, I think, on debut for the Tigers.
Yeah, and I reckon he did it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, he had to change his running style or the way he changed direction. But now he's like granite. Like I interviewed him on the weekend before the game, and I just, when we'd finished the interview, I just slapped him on the gut to say, good luck. And it was like hitting iron. Like it was just like, honestly.
Another tackle buster Tedesco.
Yeah, and Paul Gallen on 100% footy one time, I'm sure he said that James Tedesco was the hardest player to tackle in the game. He was the toughest and the fiercest competitor, and that's a fair rap. He's a great player, amongst many, many great players. And again, not typecast, not he's another this or he's another that. He's the first James Tedesco. I don't know why we've got to compare him with others, but there is nothing like him in the competition, nor can I remember anything like him. The closest would be probably a Dylan Edwards at Panthers, who has an extraordinary training regime, an extraordinarily fit young man, and has virtually done it all on effort. He doesn't have to be a playmaker in that team. He doesn't have to create anything, but
just runs.
The way he protects his in goal, the way he organises the defence, the way he runs the ball back consistently, the way he's there to mop up, the way he's there to support play. It's just extraordinary. The fitness levels of these particular players, blokes like Tedesco and Dylan Edwards, is off the charts, the charts. It's remarkable what modern day training and sports science does, but how heart and will still play a major part in how far a player goes in this game.
Now, let's change tack. One of the stories of the week, you mentioned Paul Gallen. Paul Gallen, apart from being one of the bravest footballers we've had and a great captain of New South Wales through a very difficult era, is renowned as being one of the tightest men in rugby league. Loves cash. Loves it. He's fighting two blokes at once so he can try and make money. He had a bet with you.
I think he's trying to make them money.
Did you see what happened yesterday?
No.
Him and Hodges nearly had a blue at the weigh-in. No.
Please.
But then he started yelling insults at Ben Hannett and clearly the pay-per-view isn't going all that good. Although is that with us or is that with anyway? He had a bet with you. This is how tight this bloke is. He had a bet with you on 100% footy and brought in the money, right, to pay you.
Yeah.
And somehow left the set with the cash still in his pocket. Can you
we-
explain how that happened?
We're double or nothing.
But you're still going to pay up.
Eh?
You're still going to pay you. He lost a $50 bet and left with his 100.
Well, I got the shock of my life. He wanted to have $50 on the show. I thought, $50? I said, anyway, so he came in, and he'd be filthy that he lost $50.
Oh.
He said, all I've got's 100. I said, I haven't seen cash for 3 years. I don't think I've ever had cash in my pocket for ages. And he came in with this $100 note. He said, you'll have to give me $50 change. I said, I don't carry cash, man.
Change.
So I sent the $100 note on the set because I knew he'd be talking Sharks up next week against Rabbitohs. I said, here you go, double or nothing. So I'm hoping he wins it back.
Oh, he would have done that just so he could leave with his $100. That's all he would have done.
Yeah.
Willow on AskGus. If the Bulldogs win a comp in the next 5 years, can you host one of your harbour cruises with bring your own drink and a dodgy jukebox to celebrate? #Nutbush.
We'll run it every night of the week. If we win one.
Now, this is a good one from Damien Black. Gus, and this is a weird rule. In the Storm Raiders game, when the ball's passed in Sebastian Chris's head and is propelled forward accidentally, the Raiders score. My question is, if such a ruling as accidental offside is in place, couldn't we make this an accidental knock-on? It's strange you can pass it into a teammate's head and it's not a knock-on.
Yeah, just understand that within the rules too, there is a section that says you can't deliberately do it. You can't deliberately head the ball forward, Because when the rules in play, I remember a number of times we used to think at training, let's deliberately throw it into a bloke's head behind the line, but we kept hitting them in the nose and the face and the mouth.
You get HIA now.
We get HIA now if we did that. Yeah, it comes up, maybe once a season we see a moment like that, or maybe once every 2 seasons. I can't remember the last one that happened, but not playing at the ball. But look at the game today. What's a knock-on? What's not a knock-on? Who's playing at the ball? Who's not playing at the ball? I still can't get my head around the fact that I'm running with the ball and I lose it in the tackle and I get to keep it because someone had their hand on the ball. Yeah. This whole thing has gone farcical. It's gone to no one's concentrating on that. No one thinks about that. These 6 agains and you go up to make a tackle and they throw the ball into you. Suddenly they get 6 tackles again. It's become an art now. To throw the pass late into the teammate because they'll just call it a knock-on and 6 again. It shouldn't be. It used to be about playing at the ball. That was under the rules, that was a fair try on the weekend, but you cannot do it deliberately. You cannot deliberately head the ball. I'm doing the actions for those that are watching the video. You can't deliberately head the ball into the in goals. Not as though we go get a soccer player and throwing the ball and he heads it forward. We can't do that.
Well, Graham Arnold does a bit of goal-kicking practice. You could get him doing headbutts.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a strange one, though.
Not that we didn't try to back. We used to do it at training. We'd hit him in the face, hit him in the nose.
See, the old football. Headbutt in the old football.
Yeah, the old leather football. Yeah.
The Cast Patrol. It's quite an interesting name. Who'll make the grand final out of North Queensland, Eels or Raiders? So the winner, we'll do a preview, but Para Raiders, obviously, Combank Friday night here on 9. Winner plays North Queensland up there. Now, a lot of people are just saying because it's a North Queensland home game, they win. I'm getting the feeling you're not so sold on that.
No. I mean, I like the North Queensland because they've got those points in them. They've got good points in them, and I like their brand of football. And they're in the box seat. They get a fortnight off. It's a big advantage. It's a massive advantage. They get the fortnight off. They're playing at home in front of their crowd. Like that is a home ground advantage, playing in Townsville. Playing at Accor or Allianz is not a home ground advantage for mine. That's why the finals should be played there. But it's definitely a home ground advantage up there at Townsville. and whoever it is that comes through to play them, who do they play, Eels or Raider, is going to have had a couple of tough weeks in the past few weeks. Raiders have made a log run, but they seem to be thriving on it. They actually won that game more comfortably than I could have envisaged. I really thought they'd win. I really thought they'd beat Melbourne because I've seen Melbourne's on the slide for some times, but and they did it quite comfortably, I thought. And Eels have really got their hands full with them this weekend.
Keep your powder dry. We'll go into a preview.
Yeah.
Ask Gus. Simo says, in light of Queen Elizabeth's sad passing and the ascension of King Charles III, where does this leave King Wally Lewis?
The best in Origin.
The King. Can we call him the King anymore?
Yeah, very sad.
We've never had to deal with that. Yeah.
I felt very sad, the Queen. I actually enjoyed watching a lot of the history of the Royals. I mean, they're given a bad rap at times, and I know times have changed, but it's a part of our unique history. And but to actually see behind the scenes, there was a couple of shows I watched the other night with home videos and going through the whole royal family and the ones we don't hear about nowadays, and reliving the past and the type of life. They're under such scrutiny, and I'm not feeling sorry for them. They've obviously got a lot of prestige as well and a lot of benefits, but it can't be easy for kids growing up in that environment.
All right, some 6-tackle trivia. Middo sent me a few questions here. I'll ask you the first one, and then I'll ask you the other two on the other side of the break. How many times in the past 10 years have the Sharks played in the finals?
In the past 10 years?
That is our first question.
2012.
6-tackle trivia.
2012. They're pretty strong through that era.
Let's have a little break while Gus muses over this. Last decade, Sharkies have played finals football on how many occasions? Won a comp in one of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's a high number. I think it's around. Even 7 doesn't sound like enough. 7 or 8.
It's 8. You're a champion. You're good. Now they won the Wooden Spoon in 2014. That was when all that drama was going on.
Yeah.
Bounced back to win the comp 2 years later, and last year they only missed the finals on for and against.
Yeah.
So they've been consistently punching there, the Sharkies, haven't they?
Mm.
What year do the Raiders? And I asked Middo to do some Sharks Raiders stuff for us.
Weren't you going to have a break?
Hmm?
Weren't you going to have a break before you asked me the next two?
No.
All
Well,
right.
gave you a break.
Okay.
Well, you want 3 breaks?
No.
No one will hang around. What year did the Raiders play finals football for the first time?
For the first time?
Yeah.
The Raiders played finals football for the first time. I think their first time they went to the grand final, didn't they? 87?
Correct, Gus. They made it all the way to the grand final with co-coaches Don Ferner and
Wayne Bennett.
Wayne Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people listening to us wouldn't be aware that Wayne Bennett started his coaching career at Canberra.
Yeah, that was his first coaching career.
Mm.
And then he was seconded from there to coach the Broncos when they entered the comp in 1988.
Where did Canberra get Wayne? Where Bennett was coaching? Was he in the Queensland Cup?
He would have been in the Queensland Cup, yeah. He might have even coached Origin by then, Bennett.
What year was that McGaw try? Was that 87?
I think it was before then.
He would have coached Origin before then, yeah.
Yeah.
How many finals tries has Andrew Fafita scored?
How many finals tries has Andrew Fafita scored? I can only remember the one. I'd imagine he'd have scored some before then. He won them the game with the try in the grand final.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
2. Scored 1 on the weekend.
Yeah, that'll do me.
Now, I'm going to leave that one alone. I've got a funny story for you just before we go into our preview. I've been back playing a bit of golf.
Yep.
And the funniest thing happened.
Are you a live golf fan or you're a PGA Tour fan?
No, I just think.
You entered into all of that?
Mate, if you saw me play. Oh.
You're no chance for the Seniors Tour?
I'm going like a bastard.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I was going really well, and then I started to try to get serious and improve, and I've just gone backwards, and I can't. I'm just gone.
But that's the learning process, mate. Failure is a part of learning.
Oh, but I'm just legless.
And that in particular,
I had 4 wipes the other day. I had 29 points and 4 wipes.
You're worried about the score.
No, I am worried about it.
We don't worry about the score. Worry about the process.
Yeah. So I'm playing at a comp the other day with 3 blokes I don't know at my club. I've been a member there for quite a few years now. And there's this one of the holes that's got a green that runs off to the side, and 2/3 of it's surrounded by reeds. So there's water and big, tall. It's almost like bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
And the bloke hits his approach shot through the green, bounces down the back, and comes to rest right against one of the reeds. So old mate's in there trying to work out how he's going to get his shot. And then the next thing you know, I turn around, and old mate's he's standing on the reeds, so he's squashing them down behind him. There's these reeds going everywhere. And then he gets his club out and starts swatting them. Yeah. So he's created this giant arc of free space behind him. I was waiting for him to pull out the whippersnipper and a head trimmer. And I'm laughing. And the bloke, it was an old bloke, goes, "He's not allowed to do that. He's not allowed to do that, is he?" I said, "No, mate."
I don't know how people go. Like in competition golf, blokes are blatantly breaking the rules. I don't know if other blokes pull them up for it.
So should I say, "Mate, you're not supposed to." Like the next thing you know, they'll have a chainsaw out there and chop the tree down he's behind.
Yeah, you see blokes that go into the woods to look for their ball, and all of a sudden it's sitting up on a nice piece of grass with an open passage there. He's picked it up and put it somewhere.
Oh, it was so funny. You couldn't move these things if you tried. He's standing on him, and he's got his club, and he's whacking them out.
It's like the old joke about the two blokes coming up the last hole and they're level, and one of them hits his ball in the tree, so they both go in to look for it. And all of a sudden, the bloke who hit the ball in the trees yells out, "Here it is, I've got it!" And it's in a really nice piece of grass, looking straight at the pin and all that. And the other bloke can't say anything because the ball's in his pocket. He found it and picked it up.
NRLW news. Now, the Caitlin Moran stuff, we're finding out, integrity units having a look at that. I think she's been suspended for a game and fined, so we'll leave that there. But Jada Taylor, the young girl who ran 110 metres to score.
She featured in my tries of the season. Yep.
She's getting an NRLW debut for the Roosters this week.
Is she really?
Yep.
Good on you.
Hope she can do it again. They called her online in the stories in the paper. They called her the online sensation. She wasn't an online sensation. It was live on television when she scored that 110-metre try. But good luck to Jada.
I think it's been YouTubed a few times since.
Yeah.
No, good luck to her. That's really good.
So let me just have a look at the ladder for the NRLW here. Roosters are chugging along nicely. Whereas it's all changed here, hasn't it? Because of the finals. Where the ladder's gone, Gus? Here it is. The old NRL app. Women's Premiership. Roosters 4 of 4, flying along. Newcastle obviously were beaten at the weekend, but they're 1 and 2. Then the Dragons have also won 3, but are just outside of the top 2 on 4 and against. And the Broncos and the Titans 1 win each, and Parramatta have not got a win yet. Now this week on 9, Broncos versus Eels, must win for Para. That's at Central Coast Stadium. Oh, it's a triple header too on Sunday of Women's Rugby League. So Broncos versus Eels, that one is at 12:05, followed by Titans versus Roosters at Central Coast Stadium at 1:55, and then at 3:45, Dragons versus Knights. Big game, 2v3, that one, in the NRLW. Let's get your thoughts. Friday, 7:50 kickoff, on air here though with us, live and free. Parramatta hosting the Canberra Raiders at CommBank Stadium. Adam Elliott is out, and he's quite a loss because he's been very good for them. But Corey Harawira-Knight has come into the starting team. He was, in fact, you know what? All their forwards were dynamite at the end of that game on the weekend. What about Joseph Tapine, who won the Mal Meninga medal overnight as Canberra's Player of the Year, and Papali'i at the end of that game on the weekend? They were phenomenal.
They certainly were, and it's a very good side with good momentum at the moment. It's a hard one. In the preview to the Penrith Parramatta semi-final, I said that this could well be a dress rehearsal for the grand final, that the loser of this game would find their way back to the grand final. And I just felt that they were probably the two. Now that they're both in the top 4, that's why I said Storm and Roosters wouldn't make it. I thought Rabbitohs were too far back. But oh, geez whiz, it's just bugging me how poorly Parramatta succumbed the other night to the Panthers. Panthers are a unique team, and they're in brilliant form, and they really ran roughshod over them and could have won easily by a lot more. And that's just got me nervous a little bit. Really impressed with the way the Raiders handled their assignment down there against the Storm. They jumped out to a lead. Storm came back, and then they kicked away in the end. They've got great momentum. They've got a great forward pack. They're not going to be intimidated by the atmosphere or the crowd at Parramatta out there at CommBank Stadium. The issue of how that concussion has affected Mitchell Moses last week.
They say he's got no symptoms this week and he's fine.
Well, that's the same with all hits in the head. Matthew, don't take me down that road, please. They're not all dying if they get hit in the head. Not all head knocks are a concussion. Not all head knocks need to be checked. Not all head knocks need the field and pass a HIA. But don't start me on all that.
Well, I wasn't trying.
You were.
No, I was just trying
Don't
to tell you.
start
I was
me
just
on
telling
all
you he was playing, that's all.
The absolute fear we've put into people overhead is just ridiculous.
Just on Parramatta, though, that you talked about that Penrith game. The Penrith obviously ran over them late, but it was close before Moses went off. I mean, they were starting to get on top.
They got to the front, 8-7, but I felt like Panthers were really timing their run nicely. You know, they just made sure they didn't lose the game in the first half, and let Parramatta blow them away, which had happened on the previous occasions. Parramatta's strength is their opening. You know, everything depends on their first 10 or 15 minutes. They've been like that for so long. Their first 15, and then sometimes their last 10 minutes, you know, they come again. But the middle part is not that hard when you play against them. If you're in the fight after 15, 20 minutes and you can exert some pressure, you'll get some joy, and that's where the Panthers were. And
when they start well at home, the crowd gets up and about too at CommBank. So
it's going to be really hard. Yeah. The Raiders are a funny side too. Like Raiders can do the same. They can fade in and out of games, and you know the scores can fluctuate wildly. I'm really impressed with their forwards and the way they're playing, and you know that's a big key in big matches. Look, it might be against my gut feel here, but I said before the Parramatta-Penrith semi-final that this would be a dress rehearsal for the grand final. So I'm kind of going to stick with that, but have great respect for the Raiders and you know if I wouldn't be surprised if Raiders won by plenty. You know, I think if Parramatta get into difficulty this week, they won't handle it. The pressure will get to them, and they won't handle it. And Raiders might run roughshod over them. I can see that as one scenario. The other scenario is that you know they played the top side last week. They've come up a bit short. They get back out there at full strength this week on CommBank Stadium. They're 2 wins away from a grand final. A lot of these players won't be playing together again after this season. So you know whether they can raise one last yelp. It's kind of the same way I tipped Roosters last week. Not really thinking they were certainties at all, but thinking they had one good one left in them. The Roosters didn't. I'm suspecting Parramatta might have one more for the road. So I'm going to go with the home team there. And as soon as I say that, I get a negative in the back of my brain saying you're an idiot.
Well, this is interesting because our mates at BlueBet, who bring you this podcast, and I should mention too, any betting odds mentioned in today's podcast are correct. Yeah. At the time of recording, 11 a.m. on Wednesday, September 14. Paris $1.50, Canberra's $2.60.
Yeah. See, the little man inside you. You've got to trust the little man inside you. And every time I say Parramatta, the little man says idiot.
Yeah, but you've got a few men inside of you. Yeah. Which one's that?
When I say Raiders, he's quite content with that. But really? I'm going to override the little man, and I'm going to say Eel to beat Raider.
And Saturday night, that game's at CommBank, like I mentioned. Allianz will be the host venue for Cronulla and Souths. Winner plays the Panthers.
Yep.
Cronulla even money.
Yep.
Souths $1.80.
Tom Burgess is a loss.
Tom Burgess needs to stop tackling blokes around the head.
Yeah. Tom Burgess is a loss. Look, I think Rabbit will be too strong. I think Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker will be the dominant players on the night. I think Damien Cook didn't get a lot of raps for his game on the weekend, but his presence made a huge difference to the South Sydney side. And I was up close and looking at it, and his communication, his direction around the dummy half area, and Cody Walker, the way he positions himself. You know, Wayne Bennett made a statement, I think, last year that Cody Walker was the best playmaker he'd ever coached, which is a huge statement given the players that he's coached. But he is. It's what he does before he gets the ball that makes the difference. How he positions himself and the people around him and the running patterns that he's used, and how, you know, like some players have got to go to the line. Some playmakers go to the line with a premeditated thought. I'm going to run this play this time. I'm going to run this play that time. Cody Walker goes to the line with, you know, a clear head. He's got no predetermined notion. What's predetermined is that I know this defensive line could react in 2 or 3 different ways, and he's got the patience to wait or to suck them in and then deliver a longer pass or a shorter pass or a kick or whatever. He's quite brilliant the way he does it. Extraordinary playmaker. And I think...
Well, Andrew John says he's the closest thing you've seen to Cliff Lyons.
Yeah, Cliffy Lyons, one of my favourite ever players. So, look, there's nothing between them, but I'm going to favour Rabbit on this occasion. I think that, extra time, gut-wrenching home loss last week might have the Sharks struggling a little bit this week to get up for it. And I think, given the types of games that the Rabbits have just come through, a loss to Roosters and then a good win over the Roosters, steals them nicely for a game of this nature. So I'm going to say Rabbit.
Okay. Eels and Rabbits. Now, Saturday, 3:10 p.m. Leichhardt Oval. You can watch it here or not if you don't go. It is the grand final qualifier for the New South Wales Knock-On Effect Cup. Newtown Jets versus Canterbury Bulldogs.
Yep.
Could be called the Feel Good Cup, this one. What can you tell us? What can you tell us about your boys?
Jets were minor premiers,
Yep.
And deservedly so. It was the Jets, the Panthers, and the Panthers are in the grand final now. Jets, Panthers, and Bulldogs have probably been, and the Roosters, who play through the Bears system. So the Bears is the Roosters feeder system. The Newtown Jets are feeder system to Cronulla Sharks. So, top sides, top clubs are all represented there. Bulldogs, it's the first year that we've had our reserve grade in-house for a couple of years. We also had a feeder club prior to my arrival at Mounties, and I had to make the tough decision at the start of the season, or late last year, to say we were bringing our reserve grade back in-house, which, was difficult for the Mounties, but they were coached by Mick Potter, the Mounties, and he ended up being our head coach this year as an interim coach. I think that... so the Panthers await in the grand final, the winner of this one. The Newtown Jets and Bulldogs, they had a 22-all draw in the last round of the competition.
Wow.
Yeah, so there wasn't much between them. And I think the Jets didn't have a few players because some of them had gone up to first grade in that game. They'd rested a couple of players. So the Jets have got a very strong side. Great club, the old Jets.
It's a really strong... they're both strong teams. Most of your forward pack in particular have tasted first grade football this year.
Yeah, we tried to get as many of these blokes a taste of first grade. It was a tough season for the Bulldogs, but you've got to get something out of a tough season, and that was to blood a few fellas. We've got some young fellas too there that are sort of coming up from Jersey Flegg that have got some promise, and so it'll be it's nice for the club to be in the finals, represented in the finals in the New South Wales Cup, and it's great for development to have your own internal New South Wales Cup team. I've always believed that.
All right. Well, you'll be hoping the Bulldogs will be featuring in a grand final, maybe against the Panthers next week. Next week. Yep. Next week. Yeah.
Yep.
And then have we got the old state championship final back?
Yeah, I think they do. They play the Queensland champions.
Good. Well, I think it's great.
Yeah.
All right, Gus. We're calling the game together at Allianz on Saturday night, so you'll be able to get a
Shark
snapshot.
versus Rabbit.
Yeah. Geez, the commentary box is a beauty.
I haven't been in the commentary box. I was only down on I was in the studio upstairs we didn't use, which was the Ray Warren Media Centre. Did you know it was called the Ray Warren Media Centre?
Do you know what? I didn't until I did the tour a couple of weeks before the ground opened.
I haven't seen any advertisement of that. Have you?
I don't remember.
Has anyone advertised it? I was going to take a picture of it and send it to the great man. The sign up there, the Ray Warren Media Centre.
Yeah.
I'd heard no announcement about it, but it's a wonderful tribute.
It is
to the great Ray Warren.
There'll be no one else you'd name it after.
So when I get there, I'll take a photo of the sign and send it off to Rabbits.
You got a photo with Craig Coleman on the weekend.
Yeah, Tugger was out there. He was.
He looks fit,
he got interviewed before the game. Yeah.
Does he? Oh, all right. I missed that.
He got interviewed on the big screen before the game, and I was out there. Yeah, one of the champion players, Tugger Coleman.
All right, I'll see you across the weekend. It's a feast of footy again here on 9. We've got the 2 big finals in the NRL, 3 NRLW games. We've got a New South Wales Cup grand final qualifier, and for listeners in Queensland, I know that we're doing the corresponding game up there as well in the Queensland Cup. So it'll be a very big weekend of footy here on 9's Wide World of Sports. We're back with more 6 Tackles with Gus next week.
You know the score. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858 or your local state gambling helpline.